So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's meeting, to today's event. Thank you very, very much for coming, to all of you. I'd also like to say thank you to all of you who are following us over the streaming channel. So we're here. There are more than 75 companies, startups, technology centres and institutions gathered here today to talk about this first public procurement of innovation. This is the first public procurement of innovation process that we have set up jointly between the Gipuzkoa Provincial Council and Inberri in collaboration with the Basque government. We believe this is a very important process, and today is we are commencing with the first phase of this process. So we're going to start with the preliminary market consultation, which is the first phase of this process. We're aiming to combine innovation and healthy aging of the population. We've been working in this field for many years now, and setting up and establishing this process is just one more step on that journey, because we're pioneers, first of all, and also because we believe that it is necessary to activate and to find other ways of working and doing things. The responses to the challenges of the future will not come from the tools of yesteryear. And in this initial presentation, I will be giving you a little bit of context. I'll tell you where this idea came from, and then my colleagues and the representatives of the Basque government will be giving you some more details about the process. So this is an initiative that forms part of the Zaintza Herri Lab strategy, and it is the result of a firm commitment made 6 years ago. We are creating local ecosystems, local care ecosystems in Gipuzkoa, all over Gipuzkoa. We have set up such ecosystems in 15 different municipalities to date, and we hope to do so in many more in the future. 6 years ago, we started to work in the town of Pasaia, and there we set up and we established a new way of working, a new way of organizing care and health, in collaboration with the Gipuzkoa Provincial Council, the Pasaia Local Council, social services, the Basque Health Service, and 5 experimental projects working in the third sector. The local care ecosystem started to work little by little, but over the years, despite its slow start, we have actually achieved some very positive results. So, based on this experience, we have decided to set up a broader strategy throughout Gipuzkoa, and this is the project I mentioned before, Zaintza Herri Lab. And it is within this strategy that the agreement that we signed in July with the Basque government is located. Because if we want to transform the model of care and health care, then we all need to work together. So we're going to be moving towards a more customized model, a more community-based model with greater participation of users, and we need to work together. And we need to incorporate innovation. These are the 2 keys that we have highlighted throughout the entire process: collaborative governance and innovation. And for the first time in Gipuzkoa, we are going to be bringing to the market the challenge that we want to rise to, that we want to solve, in the search of innovative solutions, because the responses or the solutions to the future challenges will not come exclusively from the tools and instruments of yesterday, which is why we have initiated this process of innovative public procurement. And the first phase of that process is the preliminary market consultation. What are we hoping to achieve? We're hoping to foster people's independence and independent living, the independent living of older adults, through predictive telecare. And our challenge is specifically the development of a connected ecosystem to foster independent living through predictive telecare in long-term care. It's going to be focused on the Oarso Aldea collection of municipalities. And why? Well, because this initiative forms part of the Science Herri Lab strategy, which, as I said before when I was speaking in Basque, consists of developing local care ecosystems that are able to create networks and ambitious projects, collaborative projects at a local level in order to ensure future-based care and health among citizens. Now, we have set up these ecosystems in 15 different municipalities, but in fact, the municipality of Pasaia is spearheading this entire initiative, which is why we are focusing on that particular area. This is why the challenge that we have set you all today to move forward in predictive telecare will be implemented in the Oarso Aldea collection of municipalities. The idea is to expand that out to include other municipalities in the future. So it forms part of Science Herri Lab, as I said before, but this initiative also forms part of an agreement signed between the Gipuzkoa Provincial Council and the Basque Government last July, and aimed to give a significant boost to the Adin Berri strategy. It's an essential move forward in the collaboration between different institutions, all working together towards a common goal. The aim is to maximize the potential for innovation in the field of healthy aging, the excellence of the social work and healthcare system, and also to foster competitiveness in the local industry. So we need to explore the keys of this new model. And the keys of this new model are customization, participation, community, innovation, and assessment. We want to see what solutions and technologies are currently available on the market, which is why we've called all of you here today to tell you about the challenge that we want to work on and to work together to try to find a solution, the best possible solution. Public procurement of innovation is the best possible instrument that we have available to us as public administration, to incorporate innovation and to put innovation at the service of people. We're talking in this case about older adults who are still living in their own homes and are users of the Beti On telecare service. So through Adin Berri, we will be putting out to tender a contract to the value of 800,000 euros. So that's all from me. I will pass the floor first of all to Marien Olabarrieta, who is the head of social services at the Basque Government. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all of you who are here and those who are following us over the streaming platform. So, this is a process that is a joint collaboration between the Basque Government and the Gipuzkoa Provincial Council, and we feel very proud of it. So I'd like to thank the Provincial Council for enabling us to work as a team. The Birpiztu program, which is a Basque Government program, aims to push forward a series of key projects in more marginalized areas of our society. In this case, we're talking about Oarso Aldea. And it is the result of a number of different commitments and agreements reached between the different public institutions here in the Basque country. Working together, different departments, education, healthcare, etc. And all of these different key departments are working together to identify new market niches and opportunities to develop employment. In the case of our department, in the Regional Ministry for Social Policies, we want to put innovation at the service of healthy aging, the development of our social and healthcare system, and industrial competitiveness. So in July of this year, we signed a collaboration agreement between the Basque Government and the Gipuzkoa Provincial Council through our department to create a centre of reference for healthy ageing called Adinberri, located in Oarso Aldea. The aim is to ensure better public management of healthcare in Oarso Aldea, moving towards a new model. The idea is to link care and healthcare, knowledge, technological development and industrial activity all together in order to improve well-being. We have a local care system, a local care ecosystem, which will boost this move towards this new model involving all the different stakeholders working in the local area. In short, the idea is to work together to improve the region on the basis of collaborative governance and experimentation. There are 4 specific areas in this agreement. The Advanced Intelligence Observatory, Pasaia Herri Lab, the care system, and the network of ecosystems, care ecosystems. And another important activity is the implementation of an advanced telecare system, and for moving to that telecare system to a predictive telecare system. We have a service. This is a service which enables users over the telephone and with a specific computer system to have ongoing 24/7 service. They are always connected to people who are uniquely qualified to respond to any emergency situation by either going themselves or coordinating other services. This is advanced telecare, which is focused on the specific needs of each user. We have different types of monitoring systems, support systems, different ways of assessing needs and the inclusion of these people in specific programs. Thanks to the technological advancements, mainly related to big data, the Internet of Things and artificial intelligence, we are evolving towards a more proactive type of telecare system, also moving towards a more predictive model, which is what we're here to talk about today, the predictive telecare program. So thanks to new technologies and through employment and innovation, predictive telecare will enable a much more customized type of care based on the specific needs of each user, with the aim of predicting, detecting and avoiding situations of risk, and to able to actually anticipate some of these situations before they even occur. This will enable, among other things, older people to continue to live in their own homes, independently or less independently, depending on their situation, and all of this from the viewpoint of prevention and care. The results that will be offered will enable a better quality of life for users, for carers, for family members and for healthcare professionals. This new model, based on innovation and the use of advanced technologies, will enable us to overcome the barrier of home care, because it will enable us to provide care in users' own homes. People are at the centre of everything, thanks to the technologies and the social resources we make available to them. Users continue to live in their own homes, and we also foster their empowerment, generating trust and confidence through a customized technological service that they will provide automatic access to available data and predicting specific risks for each person. So, for example, by monitoring their behavioral patterns. This model also has a component that has to do with social innovation and technological innovation, and it is at the service of people. It improves their quality of life, and it takes into account their desires, their wishes, their safety, which is also, again, a very important part of this. Pasaia Herri Lab provides an ideal scenario for setting up this pilot project in predictive telecare, a model which aims to anticipate the needs of users and will put people center stage. And we are doing this through the Betion platform, and if it is successful, then we will be contemplating expanding this program out to include other parts of the Basque Country. So I would like to finish by thanking the Gipuzkoa Provincial Council and the team at Adinberri for all their very hard work. And I hope that this event, in which we will be launching the first public procurement of innovation, will prove interesting to universities, technology centres and companies so that we can all work together to improve the quality of life of the Basque population. Thank you very much indeed.
Piztuta dago, bale, oso ondo. Bueno, egunon guztia.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming here to this event. For us, as the Provincial Councillor said, it's a very special day today, and we're very excited because we're launching the first public procurement of innovation in the field of healthy aging. So, as the Provincial Councillor was saying, and as I said before in Basque and now repeating in Spanish, it's a very exciting day for us because it's the launch of the first public procurement of innovation project in the field of healthy aging. Now, next to me, I have Itziar Peña, who comes from the Basque government, Idoia Sanz, who is head of the silver economy at the Adinberri Association, and Eduardo Carrasco, who is an expert in transformation in IZFE. And I myself am the director of Adinberri. My name is Raquel San Sebastian. Now, some of you might know what Adinberri is, not all of you, but let me just explain very briefly what the strategy consists of and how this challenge ties in with what we're trying to do in Adinberri. So, as we all know, over the past decade, the population pyramid is being turned upside down for two main reasons. First of all, we have increased life expectancy, which is obviously something positive today, because life expectancy is 81 years in the case of men, 87 for women, but the birth rate is dropping, which is why we're talking about an increasingly aged population. We are an aging population here in the Basque Country because we have more people over the age of 65 in the Basque Country than people aged 20. And to rise to the challenge of aging, we have created Adinberri, and this happened in 2018. It forms part of the Etorkizune Eraikiz program. And when we are talking about aging and healthy aging, the most important question is how. How do we do it? And there are two very important elements of this program. One is that we do everything through collaborative governance. And as we said, we can't do this by ourselves. We need to collaborate. So collaborative governance is an absolutely key, vital issue in this program. We need to work with citizens. We need to work with the ecosystem in order to rise to the challenge. Another very important characteristic is that when we're trying to rise to this challenge, we need to base our activities on active experimentation, in not trying out innovative ideas, carrying out pilot projects, and if they are successful, then to scale them up to the rest of the territory. Our mission is to make the most of the innovation potential of our ecosystem in order to ensure healthy aging. In order to do that, we work with three main population groups. First of all, we aim to foster personal independence and independent living. Excellence and sustainability of the health and social system as well is another of our aim. And also we aim to foster a competitive industry built up around this entire challenge. All of this at the service of citizen well-being. We always say that our ecosystem is our treasure trove. And as you can see on the screen, we have more than 500 stakeholders involved in the Adinberri program. And we have divided them into these 6 groups. It's a very cross-cutting strategy, and the ecosystem is incredibly varied, and it has a number of different levels. We say that it's multi-level and it's cross-cutting. It is based on a quadruple helix model. So social and economic, so the social side of things, the economic side of things. So it is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. With regard to social side of things, the main focus is on prevention, but also on the different innovative care models. And then in second place, we have the economic aspects. We see it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to develop a competitive industry for the silver economy. So the Adinberri challenges. In these challenges, you can see that there are 6 there on the screen. First of all, prevention of disease and health promotion, and etc. And then we have different driver projects or leading projects. In darker blue are the ones that are up and running. In lighter blue are the ones that are still pending. As we mentioned, in the new care models, we prioritize independent living in the person's own home, Zaintza Herri Lab, and the residential model as well, the older adults living in care homes, but trying to imagine what care homes of the future might look like.
Pues que vaya acompasado.
It's also important that this has the support and goes aligned with a sector of healthcare professionals that are aligned with these new models. That's what Adinberri is all about. So it's a competitive economy. And for that, we've got the Silver Economy Erronka project, which is a lead project. There are 4 stages to it. The 5th challenge is the new aging paradigm. We talk about healthy, active aging, but also a full, enriching life and significant life project. This is something that also needs to be touched upon. And in addition to that, we've got what we can call a socially just and inclusive society via the ARIAC and the Gipuzkoa Intergenerala projects. So this challenge that we're dealing with today, as I've said, it's the development of a connected ecosystem to foster independent living through predictive telecare in long-term care, which comes from the Berpiztu program and the agreement signed with the Basque regional government. It comprises the Zaintza Herri Lab strategy. They do have a website if you want to see more about what Zaintza Herri Lab is. And it responds to the challenge of the silver economy. As I said earlier, we've got a working program with 4 stages. We're already in the 3rd and 4th stages of that, which is the action plan and the accompanying side of things. I ought to add that within this silver economy and the strategic framework that we set out in 2020, after a thorough analysis of the silver economy strategic sector in Gipuzkoa, by the way, over 188 stakeholders comprised of companies that took part in that. We carried out a questionnaire amongst over 1,000 companies. So now we've got an idea of the size of the silver economy in our province. And so we used this survey to prioritize different niches based on a series of criteria. And one of the criteria was alignment with demand, of course. This strategic survey can also be found on Adinberri's website. There you can see all the needs that were pointed out from the demand side. So aligned with these criteria, we then prioritized 5 specialization areas. The first of these is public health services and care models. That includes telecare, and that is part of the fifth niche, which you can see in the side pan, which is the enabling technologies. And in fact, that's what we're going to be talking about this morning, enabling technologies. One of the areas that this challenge wants to also deal with is loneliness of people, especially loneliness at home. This is aligned with the ARIAC strategy. The ARIAC strategy has been prepared over 2 years, and as you can see on the screen, several stakeholders have taken part in its preparation. It was presented to the public in May and June, and with a great deal of attendance. What are the benefits of this tool? Well, public procurement of innovation is something that appears in the Contract Act for the public sector in Article 115 of that act. And what it aims to do, public procurement of innovation, is to include innovation for those of us who work on pilot projects and then include this innovation in the end so that it reaches the end user. That's our ultimate goal. So innovation that reaches the end user, of course, improve the care that's offered, also encourages the innovation and development in companies. It encourages them to be competitive, and then also, but not just competitive, cooperation can be generated between companies that are here today that are following via the streaming service, because this challenge is very diverse and will require lots and lots of specialization. Perhaps not one company will be able to cover all the different specialities. That's why cooperation is necessary. It's also a tool that helps us with scalability and creates a culture of new challenges in our province. So this challenge, this preliminary market consultation, seeks technological solutions for predictive telecare. It's aimed at technological experts and care experts for long-term care, with a goal of collecting up innovative ideas and then move on to a tender process, which will be carried out in principle the first 6 months of 2023, and will have a budget allocation of 800,000 euros to then be piloted over the second part of 2023 and 2024. I'm now going to hand the floor over to my colleague.
Bueno, Gunón, a ver, yo en principio en estos 10 minutos voy a intentar contextualizar lo que es la...
I'm going to try to put telecare into context with regard to services, users, devices, and a few figures as well. Telecare is a public service which is covered by the Basque government. It's included in the catalogue of services that the Basque social services system offers according to Act 12 of 2008. Currently, there are 63,334 people using the telecare service. What does that mean, that figure? Well, it means that you need to remember that every month around 1,300 new requests are received, and 900 people should leave the service, normally because they pass away. We've already mentioned what this service allows people is independent living. That means that they know there's somebody there at the end of a phone line that can help both the person and their relatives and surroundings. 24-hour day service. And the red button, or when you click on it, you can access a call that's made to a care center. People will respond that are highly trained and able to offer appropriate solutions depending upon the needs that the person required. It may be an emergency. Since 2011, when telecare was transferred to the Basque government, we've been going through a whole process. There are different additional technological devices at people's home, for example, gas detectors, CO2 detectors, smoke detectors, mobility detectors, detectors if people fall down. What we want to do is go further now in this advanced telecare and make the different IT systems interconnected. So this is all part of social services and healthcare. This opportunity that Science Lab has offered us is actually great because it helps us put into practice, get us up to cruising speed in this next step forward. The ultimate goal of telecare has been said on many occasions, which is to encourage a better quality of life for people, encouraging their independent living at home. And also, of course, help their family surroundings and the community. It offers safety and support to people, a permanent standing contact with somebody outside, immediate response if there's a personal, social or health emergency, a monitoring that can detect possible health risks, support accompanying during time of crisis or when there's a special need. And also, we want to try to act preventively in that way to avoid the risk of loneliness, safety, or the person's health with support actions and advice actions. It's in this final goal which actually really takes us onto the world of predictive telecare. This service is aimed at 4 main groups: the over 75s that live on their own, those that are dependent, grade 1, 2 or 3 dependency, the over 65s that are at risk of dependency, and those that are at risk of social isolation. This is normally something that's decided upon local social services. As for data, we've said that in October 2022, this service had 63,334 users in the whole of the Basque Autonomous Region. That's right, around about 2.87% of the population here. If you look at the population pyramid, there you can see the tip, which is the over 60s, and that's where telecare is really interesting. We've seen that as the age goes up, population coverage is greater. So the over 90s have got 40% of the over 90s are covered. So here, where the majority of users can be found are those between the ages of 80 and 89. 77% of users are women, 56.83% of the people that are using this system live alone, 35% live with somebody else, and 33.82% of the people that are using this service have a recognized level of dependency. We've already spoken about the different devices. Each person has their red button, and depending upon the sort of support that they need and the devices that they have to actually offer them adequate care, they also have smoke detectors, gas detectors, CO2 detectors for falls, and other kinds of devices as well. Those users, of course, group together depending upon the level that they, the support that they need, and that's moderate, high, intense, or high risk. Those are the 4 groups. In the Oaso Aldea collection of municipalities, we've got 500 users of telecare. Telecare, and this has already been mentioned by Marian, actually approaches this coordinated, individual, preventive, proactive approach. And in fact, the approach that we really have follows this line of predictive telecare. What we do is we concentrate on 5 areas: loneliness, falls, safety at home, support from the family and from the local community, and cognitive deterioration. We're actually looking at these 5 areas to see what sort of technological support, what sort of professional support each user requires. Once we've diagnosed that, every time a new user comes on board, what we do is we carry out an initial appraisal where we look at initially their environment. Firstly, of course, their characteristics, their social relations, their health, their independence, mobility, their emotional state, their capacities, and what their homes are like. Are there any architectural barriers? Is the home, to a certain extent, in need of greater care? And with all of this information, we decide upon how much care the user requires, and they'll therefore get the care that they need from a professional, dedicated professional, and also on the technology side of things. There's different devices, as I said earlier. Mainly what this graph shows is the calls that have been made via the red button, because we've got incoming and outgoing calls registered here. You can see the number of calls annually. For example, in 2020, there were 350,000 calls and over 1 million calls made by us. That is from the care centre to users, either to monitor them. Sometimes it's programmed monitoring calls, or in other calls, they're more proactive in nature. And I use 2020 as a year because that's COVID year, and that's when we stepped up our work. We really stepped up our preventive work because the number of calls that we had to make to try to offer this care, this response at times when we were all at home and unable to go out was something really, really important for everybody that was already using this red button service. The service also, well, we get a lot of calls from people. A lot of them are emergency numbers. There you've got the figures every year, around 51,000 per year. We, of course, refer people to the health services. We get people doctor's appointments. We can deal with emergencies. We've also got our own roving unit that can act as first responders and help people, if, for example, if there's been a fall but that doesn't require any medical assistance. So I've explained a little bit about telecare regarding users and how we go about things. So what we've got through all of that, some data that have been structured in the following way. We've got general data of our users, for example, socio-demographic data, administrative data, the service that they're being offered after they've been appraised. And once these appraisals are reviewed every X months, then we've got technological data, either kind of device that we've offered the user, the type of terminal, whether it's digital or not. In 2018, we started a service digitization plan, and currently 30% of terminals are now digital. So we're now moving on to a new digitization plan, and we're expecting by next year, at least we're committed, we've pledged to getting at least 90% of new devices that are put into operation be digital. And of course, there's then natural turnover of newcomers and those that leave the service, so that those that have already got devices, at least 10% of them are going to be upgraded to digital devices. We've got, of course, other additional data, for example, the phone calls that have recorded, activity reports, and medical reports, and then all the different service data, that is, the alarms, the calls that are sent us, for example, via a CO2 detector, how many calls have been made. The same goes for emergencies, whether it was a health emergency, what resources have been mobilized, both on our side and, for example, other services such as SOSDEAC, and then all the monitoring work that's programmed. Because I said earlier, there's this programmed monitoring work that the service does, these calls that are programmed, care visits, assessments, etc., etc. And to finish, our ultimate goal is to carry on offering advanced telecare, and we're hoping that it'll end up with predictive telecare. We've got a advanced telecare model in the Basque Country, but what we want now is to add new innovations to it. More information that can be obtained via the interoperable nature of the whole of the Science Lab ecosystem. We also want to include new sensors and devices, and elements related to conversations, for example, natural language processing. All of this information, all this new data model, what we want to do is to then analyze the data that we obtain from that, specific analysis, pinpointing, for example, using AI and big data technique to, or also using algorithms and machine learning to extract information from the data, analyze that data, stratify the population, and then create, for example, homogeneous groups of people, and in that way predict, prevent, and take action that is far more focused on a specific group. Data science for us is the ability to find new ways of thinking thanks to data that can provide us with solutions that perhaps today we offer intuitively, but actually can sometimes be hidden, and problems that aren't necessarily being resolved. That's what we're trying to do through our service. Thank you.
Eskerrik asko Itziar. Ondoren aurkeztuko ditudan aurrekariek
the context that I'm going to explain to you now is going to be related to independent living at home. I'm going to talk about our context. We've spoken about Science Lab. We've also heard from Maite Peña. We've heard how the public healthcare model has evolved, has developed over time. And as Itziar Peña said, the Basque Country's public telecare service. A lot's already been done for this in this process. Science Lab, as Maite Peña said, there are some goals for Science Lab. I'm going to be talking about those goals. Firstly, to develop a public healthcare system which has different processes involved in it, and interaction between technology and institutions, all within an ecosystem. In addition to that, what we want is greater a coordination between healthcare and social services, a kind of care pathway to get greater efficiency levels. What's more, we want to facilitate the development of local capacity via experimentation and encouraging of innovation, especially encouraging the integration of a person-centered model to obtain more customized services. All of these things together in our care ecosystem can enable the Basque government to be more active in helping people being independent at home. So we talk about proactive, predictive and smart telecare. And of course, technology has a great deal to do in that. We want to design personal, customized interventions. As for how the public health care model is going to evolve, as you can see in the slide, we've already pinpointed different challenges. An increase in the support needs, the current crisis that we're going through, an additional care model, diversification of models and coexistence, an increase in loneliness. But at the same time, we're working to try to pinpoint and implement responses or solutions that respond to these challenges, linked to this paradigm shift in public health care, the definition of policies, transition policies which are aimed at a new care model, stepping up care in the community and at home, although the greatest challenge is at home, the generation of long-term care ecosystems that are always respectful of a person's individual life, a project to encourage independent living in all situations or emergencies and stages of a person's lives with a preventive and sustainable approach. So this is a model that aims to evolve through innovation, prevention and digitization. I'm not going to repeat what's already been said because a lot has already been mentioned. The public telecare system, telelagunza or telecare, we need to work more to detect as early as possible the risks that are out there and offer more customized care. In the telecare program, of course, there need to be direct action needs to be taken, for example, in the field of loneliness or when there's been a fall in the issue of safety or ill treatment, cognitive impairment, or also we need to help the person's or user's family environment and community environment to try to get technological, innovative solutions assisting us, as Eduardo is going to talk about, so to make sure that we can give immediate response when necessary. This is actually something that's reflected in a person's customized telecare program. In short, we need to talk about areas that need to be strengthened. As we said earlier, we want to move towards a 4P telecare model, and that is the P of prediction from the viewpoint of prevention, to develop a preventive service that gains its data from all different data sources. We've seen the structure of the database. The idea is to integrate into it new information sources and then be able to use that knowledge so that it and convert it into intelligence that can then help to design a proactive, customized care. That's in the field of prevention and prediction. But why? So that everything is more customized, a far more customized, personalized service so that it can be adapted to the abilities, requirements, and needs of each user via an open, interoperable platform. This is really important because what we want to do is to have an open telecare platform, but that uses interoperable standards so that new products can be and new services can be integrated transparently, easily, and that can respond to the needs that we pinpoint, with the goal of facilitating in the new future, because we're already working on this, the possibility of new stakeholders in a connected and coordinated way taking part in this ecosystem via data sharing, effective legal data sharing with the different local care ecosystems. In short, and to finish, what is this challenge all about? This preliminary market consultation, what's its ultimate goal? To develop an ecosystem to help care at home evolve.
And to carry out a pilot project within the Betion program, and to work in these 5 dimensions that we mentioned earlier in order to provide a proactive response, loneliness, falls, etc. And then also support for the social environment. In order to achieve these aims, we're going to design products and solutions which are based on 4 different technological areas. Speech processing in first place. Secondly, the Internet of Things. Thirdly, will be advanced analytics, AI and big data. And fourthly, interoperability and standardization technologies. We want to identify these technologies, first of all. And now I'm going to pass the floor over to Eduardo, and Eduardo is going to explain the technological component of this challenge, the challenge that we have established. Thank you very much, Idoia. So, in order to respond to the challenge that we have set ourselves and you, we have identified 4 priority technological areas. First of all, speech processing. So, through this preliminary market consultation, our aim is to identify solutions or services that are either on the market or close to being on the market that will help us to move forward with predictive telecare. For example, in order to detect risks at home in any of the 5 areas that we have already identified. There's a large variety of different tools available. For example, we find particularly interesting those that are based on analysis of dialogues between users and teleoperators. These conversations are recorded and we try to get as much information from them as we can. So we also have different transcription technologies that will help us to detect recurring problems, indicators of their emotional mood. This can give us a lot of information. But there are many other technologies that can also be interesting. For example, conversation assistants, technologies that will help automate different household tasks, and also technologies that will help us to monitor users better. So we can provide or offer solutions based on speech processing, based on biomarkers of different diseases that are in their early stages. And then another thing that's really important in all of this is the fact that we're not looking for isolated solutions. Quite the opposite, in fact. Any solution identified needs to be able to be integrated into the platform, into the Betion platform in our particular case. The second area, technological area, is the Internet of Things. And just like with the previous area, we are looking for products and services that are either on the market or close to becoming on the market. In this area, specifically, we are looking for solutions, devices, non-intrusive technologies IoT technologies that can be deployed in the home and that will enable us to collect information that will help us to detect anomalies or deviations in the user's normal behavior that may pose a potential risk or may indicate a potential worsening in the user's situation. So we're looking for integrated, complete solutions, not just sensor-based solutions, that will include both data capture, processing, and analysis. And it's, again, very, very important that they be interoperable in nature, these solutions. With regard to the third technological area that has to do with advanced analytics, AI, and big data, again, much the same as before, we want to find technologies that will enable us to aggregate and exploit all of this information together in an integrated, holistic way. We're talking about operational data within the Bettion platform, which Itziar has explained. That information will be also provided in the rules of the preliminary market consultation. And we also want it to be integrated with the other technological areas. Here, for example, there are many, many tools that could be very, very useful. For example, we have tools that enable stratification, tools that enable the generation of smart and customized alerts, prediction of adverse events, automatic or semi-automatic assignation of plans to different users. All of this will help us to achieve predictive telecare. And then the fourth technological area is the open platform, in which we are seeking to increase interoperability. Here we're looking for architectures which, based on standard interoperable technologies, will enable us to develop a unique platform in which we will be able to integrate all the different solutions that we have identified in the previous technological areas, but also be able to integrate new solutions in the future. So with all of this, what we aim to do is to accelerate the incorporation of technology into the Bettion platform, to have solutions that are scalable, that can be scaled up to reach the largest number of users as possible. So this is the information that we want to get from you. This is the information with which, over the next quarter or 2 quarters, we will be defining the tender, so that we will be able to reach out to those technologies that are going to help us and use them in the pilot. The pilot will help us to test these technologies out in real conditions, and we're going to be doing this in the Oarsoaldea region. So we're just going to give you some data, facts and figures. Now, these are all initial. They're not definitive yet, and they can be adapted according on the information that we receive. Everything that you tell us will help us to define the exact nature of this project. But this is just the preliminary data so far. But what we're thinking of at the moment is a project that will last for 2 years, in which the different technologies will be implemented and deployed and tested. At the beginning, we're thinking about independent type of testing, in order to just make sure that each technology works properly by itself. And then at the end of the project, the idea is to test the integration of the different solution and the aggregated analysis of all the data that is generated. With regard to the pilot project for the first technological area, that will, of course, depend very much on the information we get from you, because, as we said before, there are very, very different types of solutions. But in principle, at least, what we're thinking of at the moment is that we would like at least to be able to pilot each solutions in 100 households in the Oarsoaldea region of the province of Gipuzkoa. So we will be piloting these solutions in 100 households. That's what we want, but it will, of course, depend on the costs. So it's important that when you actually you fill in the information for each solution in the forms, you need to really pay attention to the costs. We need to know the total costs of the deployment of each solution. That's really important for us to know. So we're talking about costs that include the purchase of the equipment, the installation in the home, maintenance and communications, and all maintenance is important, and then any other infrastructure costs that may be incurred. You should perhaps give us ranges of costs. So, for example, from 100 to 200, this is from 100 to 200 households, we'll be talking about this type of cost. From 200 to 400, this type of cost. This will help us to really find the solution that best fits our possibilities. That's for areas 1 and 2. And then for area 3, it's really important to verify the analysis tools. And when we do that, and as we get more and more information from the other areas, then we will be carrying out aggregated analysis. So individual analysis followed by aggregated analysis. And again, with costs, in relation to costs, this is really important. You need to include the costs of all the different tasks that will be involved in the deployment of your solution. So, for example, the verification of the technology, the integration of different models, the infrastructure costs, for example. What we're looking for are turnkey solutions, whole solutions, integrated solutions that are ready to just be set up. With regard to the fourth technological area, the aim is to set up the platform, the open platform, and to test its capabilities in terms of interoperability and standardization. So the platform will need to integrate the different operating data within the Betion platform and the different solutions and the different products employed in areas 1, 2 and 3. And again, costs is really important to detail and outline them in a lot of detail. So what are the outcomes that we expect to achieve? Well, we want to set up a pilot project. What for? Well, in order to test out different solutions for the subsequent contract that will be put out to tender. We want to work with different suppliers, and we want to work with them to establish a unique platform. It's important to have tools that will facilitate the decision-making process, and help us to develop the preventive system. And all of this needs to be scalable so that we can expand it out to include more users in the future. That's all from us. We're going to pass the floor now to our colleagues from Silo, and they can tell us more about the ins and outs of the consultation itself.
Sí, ahora. Buenos días a todos, muchas gracias.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Director of the Foundation, colleagues, Eduardo, Edoya, Regional, Provincial Minister, Director of Social Services at the Basque Government. Thank you for inviting us to take part in this event. It's an honour to be here with all of you, representatives of the companies who are going to be responsible for actually taking all this out onto the market. My name is Adrián Balfagon, and I am the director of Silo Company, and with me is Esther Martínez Álvarez, who is a senior consultant also at the company.
Os vamos a comentar, como ha trasladado...
So, as Eduardo has just said, we're going to be explaining the steps that you need to take if you would like to participate in this preliminary market consultation. Now, I'm sure we've been looking at your data, and I know that there are more than 15 companies here, at least. We would like to. We don't know if you know what preliminary market consultation is, but we would like to explain that just in case, and also public procurement of innovation, to explain what it is. Public procurement of innovation has been around for about 10-12 years in the commercial field, but in the military field it's been around for about 50 years. As you can see in the slide, it was NASA and the American government, they were the first two partners to develop public procurement of innovation. Now, Eduardo and the members of the foundation has set a challenge that has to do with predictive telecare, which is very interesting, very important, and we would like to resolve that through innovation. And this is exactly the same thing that happened with the space missions. We had to design the spacesuits, the food, the GPS, the navigating system. All of that were challenges in their beginning as well. They were challenges that were purchased, and I think this is where public procurement of innovation differs from subventions. It's not a subsidy. It is a purchase. This is the innovation that was purchased by the government from startups and companies who developed these innovations. So, public procurement of innovation aims to break away from the purchaser-supplier paradigm. You're here in this event, all of you, and you're thinking, what is public procurement of innovation? What's it aiming to do? Well, on the one hand, we have the administration, the government, and they are saying, well, if there were alternatives available for my challenge, then I would put them out to tender and I would purchase these contracts. And then companies, you have the solutions, you have the capacity to actually engage in innovation. What are you saying? You're saying, well, if there was a clear demand, then we would invest more in R&D and in innovation because we know that we've got a purchaser at the end of the line. So we want to sort of we want to matchmake between these two different sides. You have a public purchaser. In this case, it's the foundation. They're going to be putting out to tender a service or a product which doesn't exist on the market at the moment. And so companies have to engage in a little bit of R&D and innovation in order to provide these products. Now, many of you might be asking yourselves, well, what am I going to get out of it? Well, there are lots and lots of advantages for companies because many of you, I know there are some technology centres here. I've worked with you in the past, so you probably know this already. But you have R&D. You've already carried out R&D, and you can actually capitalise on what you've already done and put at the service of this new project the knowledge that you have already generated. It also provides you with a first customer and a customer that is a reference in its field. If you can say to future customers, well, my first customer was the Gipuzkoa Provincial Council. Well, it's a good selling point for you in the future if you want to sell your innovation to other people in the future. We're also creating new products and services which are innovative. So we're not doing what we were doing in the past, just following the market. We're actually getting ahead of the game and we're taking another step forward and we're creating a catalogue of services which have a greater added value. And another thing, which is very interesting, and many of us talk about this when we're doing networking and we're talking during the coffee break, for example, with you. One thing that companies often say is that one of the benefits, and the main benefits, is that public procurement of innovation enables them to have access to areas of demonstrators, so we are able to show people what we can do. And it also is going to help resolve a real need. So we're talking about demonstrating scenarios in real environments. It also enables us to share the risks and the benefits with public administration. So we have the 800,000 euros, which is what the contract will be worth. But we are sharing risks, we are sharing the benefits because we are in a scenario of innovation. And we hope that we will be able to achieve the optimal goals that we have set ourselves, but all of this is shared. It also generates for companies the opportunity of participating in consortia. Because a lot of you have said to us, yes, but when we're talking about public procurement, you have to be a multinational, you have to be a really big company. But no, public procurement of innovation is something that anyone can join in, anyone can participate in. We've been working in public procurement of innovation for the last 10 years, and over the last 2 years, we've carried out more than 15 public procurement of innovation procedures, and in fact consortia really have a much greater presence. So we have a large company working with an SME, working with a startup, who, for example, will develop the algorithm, especially in projects which include both software and hardware. All of you are key players in this process, and it also helps companies to become more international. So at a national level, public procurement of innovation is more and more common, as we said before, but at a European level as well, it's more common. There is a European project which focuses on frailty and older adults, and that's a very dynamic project. And in fact, this could be an opening for you, a doorway into Europe, because there's a lot of work being carried out in Europe at the moment with regard to aging, healthy aging, and everyone is trying to move forward, taking into account not just the present needs, but the future needs of this population as well. So as companies, look at this map. In 2018, there were some initiatives of public procurement of innovation, but today, if you look at the number of them, there are 4 times more of them. There are more than 122 public procurement of innovation processes. So what better way to start working in this way than with working with the Adinberri Foundation and the Gipuzkoa Provincial Council on this very interesting and ambitious challenge. Now, let's just have a look at the cycle of the cycle of a public procurement of innovation so that you can understand where the preliminary market consultation comes in. As my colleagues have they explained that. They've explained this a little bit in the introduction, but the preliminary market consultation is another step in this circle. So first of all, you carry out a strategy of thinking about the needs, thinking about the services that are required. That's the first step. So we've all sat down, we've defined the challenge. That's the first step. But now we're on to the second step. And that is when we start to create a dialogue with all of you. So the preliminary market consultation phase is a phase in which we talk to companies and we resolve any doubts before we pass on to the phases 3, 4, and 5, in which we actually prepare our tender. The different specifications, the technical specifications, administrative specifications, etc. As I said, this is all regulated in Act 9/217 on public sector contracts. It's specified in Article 115 of that piece of legislation. The idea is to have an opportunity to resolve certain doubts. The conclusions of this consultation process will be expressed in a final report, because the law says that we have to publish the conclusions that we have reached. The final report will give us a very clear idea of how the tender process is going to proceed. And the idea of all of this is that we want you to get ready for when the contract is put out to tender. We want you to form your consortia, to form your groups. I mean, it's quite an ambitious challenge, as Eduardo said. One of you might have an algorithm, another one might have a platform, and it's the integration of these different solutions that will enable us to have to rise to this challenge and solve the challenge. The contracting organization, when they're actually specifying the specifications, will take your ideas into account when actually writing the specification sheet, which is why I really do encourage you to participate, because if you are not participating in this preliminary market consultation, then your ideas and needs will not be reflected in the specifications of the contract when it is put out to tender. I can tell you on the basis of our experience working with these processes that please, it is really important for you to participate now. What are the principal aspects of interest that we want to focus on at this moment in time? Well, what are we going to contract? What's the contract? What service are we going to purchase? Who can provide that? How can we choose the best offer? Because we're talking about criteria here. When you look at the form, later on, Esther will go over the form with you. You might that you're going to be asked about what sets you apart from the rest. And this will then be transferred into the criteria for allocating and deciding who's going to be awarded the contract. So you need to give us a breakdown of all the different elements: staff, hardware, software. This is really important for us because this will enable us to provide or to write the report on prices and costs. Ranges is really important. I'm sure in the questions you'll be asking me, how do I calculate the estimate? Well, just use ranges. With so many, from 100 to 200 users, it will be this price. From 200 to 400 users, it will be this price. Or maybe we can use some kind of offset or corrective algorithm. That's fine. In this type of process, there is no good or bad information. All information is important, is relevant, and you need to really bear that in mind when you are completing the forms with your teams in your companies. You're also going to be asked about your licensing system, royalties, etc. We want to know where do you draw the line in the sand with regard to intellectual property, so that we know who we're dealing with, and then based on this information we might include some criterion linked to royalties, for example. And also, if we have information about any obstacle, limitation, legislation, now's the time for you to tell us about it. So if we can perhaps do something to remove this obstacle from your path, this is what we will try to do. This is why we need to share as much information as possible. So all the questions that you'll see on the form are there in order to enable us to define the aim of the contract, to define the solvencies from an economic point of view and technical point of view. It's going to enable us to define the criteria for awarding the contract. We're going to define the estimate together as a joint exercise, and then also intellectual property system that we will be using as well, because we're talking about innovation. The foundation will be paying some money for it, so we are moving forward to find new solutions. So we do have to take intellectual property into account. And the next question, which people usually ask, is, well, why should I provide anyone with an idea free of charge? Well, we're going to guarantee the confidentiality of all the different proposals that we receive, because they are sent free of charge at that moment in time. Of course, there may be technology centres and some universities. I can see that there are representatives from universities here. You might be thinking, shall I just wait for the contract to be put out to tender, or shall I get to work now? Well, I would recommend very strongly that you get to work now on your idea. Just some facts and figures based on our experience, and that is that 80% of companies that participate in preliminary market consultations are then successful bidders in the public procurement of innovation process. So 80% of the companies that participate in the preliminary market consultation win the prize, if you like. And we have a lot of experience working with companies who have participated in this type of process, and 100% of all companies who have in the past participated in a public procurement of innovation process say they would do it again, because they see that they might not win the contract because they might not make the best offer, but all of them would say that they would again participate in the future in another preliminary market consultation, because obviously it is very enriching for them. And now I'm going to pass the floor over to my colleague Esther Martinez, and she's going to explain what you have to do if you want to participate in this preliminary market consultation. What are the things that you need to take into account as a company?
Ah, vale, ahora lo voy a apagar. Bueno, Ahora, ¿verdad? Bien. Gracias a
Thank you very much, Adrian. Now, you're totally convinced that you need to participate in the preliminary market consultation. The next question is, what do I have to do? So that's what I'm going to try to describe. I'm going to just outline the different documents that you will come across. It's all available on our website. And you can do an advanced search. You just have to put CPM and everything all will be revealed. You will find first of all, the announcement of the consultation, then the rules for participation. Then in Appendix 1, you will have a description of the challenge so that you know what is being sought. Then you have the participation form, which you will need to fill in, obviously, if you want to participate, so that we can understand and take your ideas and your data into account when we are drafting the contract to be put out to tender. There's an Appendix 3, which is the doubts form. If you have any doubts or questions about the process, then you can send in those doubts and we will do our best to answer them. We also have another appendix, which has to do with the telecare service data, because as we have heard today, the idea is to be able to share data on the Betion service platform. So we want to provide you with access to the most important data in the Betion service so that you can understand what is being sought. The more data, the better. The more data we have, the better we're going to be able to train the tool and the better we're going to be able to reach good, precise, accurate conclusions about habits and in order to actually provide value to the pilot project. And then you have a frequent questions document as well, so that because some of your doubts may have already been answered. So before I get into too much detail with the different documents, I'm just going to give you a timeline about everything that can be done.
Estamos valorando la posibilidad.
We're looking into the possibility of organising a technical workshop on this challenge, probably to be held before this consultation process closes, so that if you've got any doubts and if something hasn't been well explained today, there's going to be this possibility of offering you more information, because you're the important people in all of this. We want you to feel comfortable with the process and we want to assist you as best we can. The ultimate date, so the final date for sending in doubts and questions, is the 13th of January, so that we can solve them and publish them before the handing in date for proposals comes up, which is on the 20th of January at 12 o'clock noon. After that, we'll analyse your proposals, we'll judge them according to criteria, we'll look at everything that you propose to prepare a final report on conclusion. I really want to highlight this is a dialogue, a two-way dialogue. So if necessary, we might ring you up and ask for more information to eventually prepare the final conclusion report. It is confidential. I like to highlight that even if we ask you for information, even if we call you up, the conclusion, the final report is confidential. There won't be any names of companies, there won't be any detailed information about specific things. We will be publishing it with those people that we've interviewed, of course, but I really want to highlight that this is confidential. We are going to make sure of that. Who can take part? It's an open tender, it's an open process, either legal entities, individuals, public or private entities, and these applications can be made individually or together with others. You may well be a small startup, but don't worry about that. Send the information in. It may well be that during the preliminary market consultation or during the tender process, you find a person to assist you, and you might want to present a joint solution, specific details, of course. Just because you participate in the PMC doesn't mean you have to participate in the tender. We've got all the documentation that you need already uploaded on the Basque contracting platform, and to send in proposals, which is a form and an appendix that you have to send in. You can do that via the email that's up on the screen now. Consultations can also be made. Questions of this can also be sent to this email address. It's really important that you use that so that everything is in order. And please, until the 13th of January, proposals until the 20th of January, and there will be an area of FAQs and the language. You can make your proposals in English, Basque or Spanish. I'm going to look now a little bit more closely at the participation form. You probably haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but just we wanted to highlight that there are several lines, and maybe you want to look at how these lines can coexist or work independently or together. But there is a way of telling us which of the lines you're applying for. If somebody wants to go for 2, 3, or all of them, then they just put across in the little box. In the document, you'll see some specific goals for each line. If you're only going to apply for one line, then just give the information for that line. Costs. The same thing goes for that. If you're presenting yourself to several lines, please include costs for each line so that we consider them. Of course, each company has its own way of doing things, and it may well be that cost structures are different. Don't worry about that. Just give us the information, because we're sure that it's going to be interesting and it'll help us prepare the tender, because the idea of this preliminary market consultation is to take you into consideration so that we can get this innovative solution, but it needs to be aligned with the market. We don't want to put out a public tender that nobody then applies for, because we've developed something that is actually meaningless for you. So our idea is that you feel comfortable in your innovation. There's a little bit more information there about the appendix that I mentioned. It's just one. It shouldn't be longer than 80 pages. There's the email that you need to send any queries to. This is what I mentioned earlier about the different lines. Please actually give a little bit of detail about the line that you're interested in. But only, of course, those that you are interested in. You don't have to fill them all out. As my colleague Adrian said, we all want to collaborate together because we think this is the best way of piloting, doing a best pilot and providing an optimum response to what we're seeking. How do you take part? As I said earlier, there's some key questions that we put to you. We do ask you, please, to fill out as much as you possibly can. There's no wrong or right answers, as Adrian said. Everything that you think can add, please do so. We're going to ask you about your experience. That's important, of course. We'll ask you whether your solution's already been used, if you've got any experience in applying it, have you got any experience in the specific challenge that we're talking about, the innovation elements, because this at the end of the day is public procurement of innovation. All of this is in the documents, a summary of everything depending on the kind of innovation that you're approaching. Well, there's a different way of public procurement of innovation. Just give us the information, we'll analyse it, don't worry about that. specific barriers that are also important to highlight. Maybe we haven't realized them because we're not as connected to reality as you, as startups and businesses are. So it's really, really important for us to know about those barriers so that they're included in the tender subsequently. As I said earlier, experience in similar projects is something that we're interested in. The criteria that you feel are important. Remember that PPI isn't just a normal kind of public procurement, but price isn't so much of a key here. We need to find criteria that do provide value to the project that we're trying to implement. So what you consider is important, what criteria you consider important is interesting for us. The estimated duration, we need to know about that because we may need to tweak things if necessary. A summary of the proposal with a functional description, estimate cost. If it's a large amount, please try to break it down into hardware, software, and other things. If it's a hybrid model, if it's a cloud-based model, just please include everything. If anything, any kind of rating needs to be considered. And then the technological and non-technological needs that the regional and provincial governments should be taking into account. Once again, this is a two-way dialogue. Let's make use of this dialogue as much as we can. Let's just end with recommendations and next steps now. And I'm going to hand the floor back to Adrian for that. Esther summarized everything brilliantly. One of the first recommendations, because from now onwards when we leave this room, we're going to start networking, we're going to introduce ourselves to each other. Always remember that in a preliminary market consultation, it's important to have a cup of coffee. It's not like a tender when you have to go with your pledges, you have to sign your temporary merger agreement. Now it's time to have a cup of coffee and talk about how it's important to broach this either with a partner, individually, look at the possibilities of applying for this preliminary market consultation. And I recommend that you don't take on any additional commitments that may limit your participation in the future tender, because it's going to come out. Because imagine that the tender is different to the way we'd envisaged it, and your partners, being a bit of a burden. It's time for a coffee. It's not time to sign any kind of pledges. We recommend that you stick to the rules of the game. Look at the challenges out there. Sometimes we've seen companies that just give us their manual of services and that's it. No. Stick to the challenge. Give these specific innovative ideas to see how we can solve this very interesting need of predictive telecare. Make your information clearly structured. If you're going to add an appendix to your form of the different innovative elements and you want to refer to a specific page of that appendix, please, in the form, make it easy to find, point it out. It may well be that we get lots of proposals, especially when considering the different interests that we've noticed both online and here of you. Today, timeline's pretty tight as well, but you're the ones that are going to set the speed. So if we get aligned, detailed proposals, then the tender will be published quicker, because what we want to do is to get this pilot project out there, and we want you to get involved in it, to be in people's homes. It's also important to answer the questions. If the question asks you about a budget, about costs, it's no good saying, we think, as it says 800,000, I'll just put 800,000 in the budget. Please, think about scenario, breakdown costs, all information that you can provide. This is really important. Many of you, because of your experience in other public procurement processes, will probably think, oh, I'll just actually fill it out partially and they can call me and ask me the rest of it. That's another mistake. You need to get as much detail in there as possible, because it may well be that the interview never happens. And that means that you've lost the opportunity of showing all your skills for the future tenders. So, get as much detail as possible in there. Define your capacities, your skills, define the different solutions, the possibility of associating with other operators, whether you're a startup quite clearly and you've got a specific development in one of the lines, for example, in voice recognition. Then in the form I'd say, okay, I'm open to collaborate with others that are actually working on other lines. Tell us about that. You can give complete or partial solutions. We recommend that you send before the deadline your proposal. Don't wait till the last minute, 1 minute before 12, because otherwise you might get caught late. Highlight those critical points, especially those that require administration, the barriers, any regulatory barriers, anything that you feel may be a hindrance. Data, governance, data lakes, whether you can have this on the cloud, the fact that if it's on the cloud, it may have compatibility problems with how the Basque government goes about things. We need to know that we can call you at any time. Anytime once you've put in your proposal, we can call you, we can ask, you might get a email question. So please, on your form, give us the name of somebody that we can access. A person that can solve technical problems. It's no good having an institutional contact person that won't be able to respond rapidly. We're going to be very thorough. We're going to be at cruising speed, and we need a technical bot to solve any technical queries that may crop up. And then the same thing, collaboration individually or with other partners. You can all take part in this PMC. And lastly, the next steps, as I said, we've been pretty ambitious in our timeline. And of course, everything depends upon the information that you give to us. We've already published the rules for this PMC. Something else, although you've got the link at the presentation, to make everything easy access in the contracting platform of the Basque Country, if you go to advanced, there's a section called preliminary market consultation, and the first one that will pop up if you click on that is the one that we're talking about now. And for any other future challenges and other future PMCs, because this practice is increasingly popular, it's allowed now by public procurement legislation. So for the future, just always keep your eyes on the PMC section until the 13th. As Esther said, we've got time to solve questions and queries. We're also going to put up a section on for frequently asked questions, FAQs. We'll be continually updating it so that you can just look at that. Any questions that we ask in this questions and queries section will also be popped up in this FAQs, because we want to be as clear and transparent as possible. So you've all got the same opportunities. Thanks for attending. Any queries that you may have, my colleagues are going to come now to answer them, and I'm talking about technical questions and also administrative queries that you may have. Do ask them. We're more than happy to reply.
¿Algún valiente
brave soul that wants to break the ice?
Sí, eso es que lo hemos explicado.
That means we were crystal clear, doesn't it?
Si hay alguna pregunta,
If there are any questions online, we can also deal with them. As I said, anybody, any kind of question about the challenge itself, the administrative process, the time is now. Esther also said that if there are any queries, or we realise that documents were only recently uploaded, you're probably going to have to go back home with your teams and have a look at it. If during the process there are lots of major questions, we'll organise the technical workshop that I mentioned earlier. But for now, if you've got any additional queries or questions, here we are.
bueno, esto es un hito. Yo creo que estáis deseando tomar.
This is a milestone. I think you just want a coffee, don't you? So let's make use of these coffees to talk. Just approach us. Yeah? Okay. Let's close then.
Muchas gracias a todos.
Thanks, everybody.
Bueno, pues se me oye.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, that's great. Well, we had left half an hour for questions, but we've either explained ourselves really well or really badly. One or the other. Let's hope it's the first one. But as we said before, we are here if you have any doubts later on in the process. So the aim of this consultation, the consultation that is being launched today, is to solve this challenge, the development of a connected ecosystem to foster independent living through predictive telecare in long-term care. We hope that working with all of you, we will be able to rise to this challenge so that we can formulate the basis of the contract as well as possible. The results of this process will be expressed in a report, as we said before. I hope we've been able to explain the benefits of the public procurement of innovation, the PPI process. Hopefully it will give rise to health and social benefits. It will help us to introduce systematic processes to identify resources which already exist in our region and to move forward towards possible solutions. The purchase of innovative solutions encourages the participation of small and large companies, technology centres and in universities, and also promotes the interrelation between these different entities. The report published by the Manchester Institute for Innovation says that when we have this desire to collaborate, a clear impact is achieved. Over 80% of participating companies win other contracts, and about 30% of these companies increase their sales at an international level, which makes a key contribution to improving quality and increasing employment. So once we have finished our PMC, we will be putting the contract out to tender, the value of €800,000. We'll be doing that in the first quarter of next year. And as we have heard before, the idea is to move as quickly as possible. And I'm sure you are going to make a major contribution to this through your information, the information that you send us. So I would like to encourage you to really send in your very, very best proposals. So thank you all very much indeed.